This is your before and after story, where your first steps towards a new life-changing career begin. Southeastern College can take you there. We offer in-demand hybrid and online programs with hands-on training, led by in-field career professionals, and career services to put you on the path to a rewarding and fulfilling future. This is where your transformation begins. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, former Brother Low, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the Houston Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. Joining me in segment number 2, we are going to be having Tristan Freeman aboard. He does absolutely amazing work over at Bustin' Brackets, taking a look at this great game of college basketball that we all know and love. We'll ask him a little bit about some of these coaching hires, these coaching searches that we have been seeing. On top of that, we've got to get his take on the Final Four and just how in the heck NC State has gotten here. He's based out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, does a great job following the ACC, so we do have to get his thoughts on what we've been seeing in terms of this absolutely massive run from them. So we're going to be joined by Tristan in segment number 2. In the final segment, we're going to get you guys picks and analysis on the NIT Final as we hit some bank shots. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at @JNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters CM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter /X questions today, and we'll be joined by Tristan in a few minutes. We're going to keep this a 2-part podcast just because there's just so little to really be able to take away from yesterday because, well, we had no games yesterday, and I'm going to be going into full offseason mode once the nets are cut down out there in Arizona. We've got a little bit of dead time in the meantime, but I will just give you guys a little bit of a feel as to what we're right now getting in terms of the transfer portal, but I've said this on the podcast a few times and I'll say it again. Trying to decipher the transfer portal right now is tough. I just refreshed Verbal Commits, who really is the best site out there in terms of taking a look at all these transfer moves. We are up to 1,388 players in the transfer portal, so I keep making the joke of, oh, it might be easier to make a list of guys on the transfer portal. Yeah, that joke might actually not be a joke when it's all said and done. Like, it's just absolutely wild. Like, we saw Chris Edesonko. He was someone that was a big man at St. Joe's. He entered in the transfer portal. And, like, I like the move of Zeke Mayo heading on over to Kansas. He was rock solid while he was over at South Dakota State. Led the team in points, rebounds, assists, was a solid three-point shooter. But, it's just really hard to know what to make out of the transfer portal right now. And for those that are futures players, yes, you can certainly grab some nice numbers right now. There are some books that have posted up their odds to be able to win the 2025 NCAA tournament, but I feel like it would be very difficult to get any sort of a lay of the land right now because a lot of the big-time transfers, they're going to be making their announcements within the next few weeks. This is the time of year where a lot of these players, they're going to be meeting up with coaches if they're out there in the transfer portal, what have you, and this is a very, very critical week. We're going to talk about it a little bit more with Eli Becker of ECHXCB on the podcast tomorrow, but the reason why it is so critical of a week is that all of these coaches actually flock to the Final Four. They have a bunch of discussions. There are hirings and firings that are made with regards to coaches as well. And how much do you want to be rolling the dice on like a first-year coach that you have no idea what the heck they're going to be getting in the transfer portal? Like, it didn't take someone to put on their Columbo raincoat to know that Tucker DeVries was going to be following his father over to West Virginia. That was one that was a given. But again, are we going to be gambling on West Virginia winning the NCAA tournament title? Probably not. So I think that this is really that time of year where, for lack of a better term, it's hunting and gathering if you're taking a look forward. And hey, we've got 4 more games to be able to take a look at in terms of college basketball, but I think that a lot of people are in agreement with me. Unless if you are completely new to college basketball, have not seen like a game all season long, hay is in the barn. The numbers are the numbers. Now it's just all about, all right, how much do I weight the recent form of NC State versus what I've been seeing throughout the season? Will they regress into being a pumpkin? Will their good shooting variance that they've been getting against them be continuing? Is UConn really as dominant as we've been seeing? Or could we see a little bit of a hiccup like we saw against Creighton? Like, that's the big questions right now. The numbers are there. The data points are there. We know the guys. We know how they've been able to get to this road. Now it's just about deciphering the information and personally making decisions. Like, there's really no new handicapping that I'm going to be doing all season long other than taking a look and seeing, all right, here's how Purdue has performed in the last 10 games versus overall for the season. Here's how Alabama has been performing in the NCAA tournament as opposed to pre-NCAA tournament. Like, all the numbers are there. All these teams, they have been figured out. There's not going to be any guy where it's like, oh, he hasn't played all season long, and now he's going to be able to make an impact in the Final Four, which you do see every single year, a guy that might be averaging like 3 or 4 points per game be able to come out there, be able to give you double figures or something like that, but it's not like they're complete and utter unknowns. It's not like Walkie McWalk-On Jr., who's seen 5 minutes all season long, all of a sudden is going to be able to make an impact on one of these games. So that is what is ahead for us. Like I said, we are really going to be getting into the offseason within the next few days. After Monday, then we are full-fledged steam ahead, but this is a very big week for a lot of these players. A lot of these players are going to be meeting with coaches, and there's just no value in speculating as to where a guy's going to go. Like, if you want to go to the crystal ball projections on 3 Sports, 247 Sports, they do amazing work, by the way. Absolutely go for it, but I just don't understand where the betting edge is. Trying to look at a team right now in April for an NCAA tournament that is going to be played 11 and a half months from now, where there's one tournament title winner. So that's where we stand with regards to this podcast, and where we stand with this podcast is trying to get on as many great guests as humanly possible. You've heard this man all throughout the season, and it's always a pleasure to get him aboard. It's Tristan Freeman. He does absolutely excellent work. Take a look at this great game of college basketball over at Bustin' Brackets. That's Fanside. It's college basketball coverage. I know he's doing some great work over at Sleepers Media. That's with our good friends Greg Waddell along with Carter Elliott, the Field of 68, and so much more all 12 months out of the year. This man does an excellent job taking a look at this fine game, and you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at Oopsa351. And Tristan, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Greg. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Tristan. And Tristan, we've got ourselves a Final Four that involves, I think it's very fair to say, two teams that if you told me they would be in the Final Four, nobody would be surprised. UConn along with Purdue, Alabama, a little bit more on the fringe with them being in that 4-5 matchup in the round of 32. And then the 11 seed at NC State has been a complete and utter shock. And I do want to highlight that 11 seed because you're a man that you're out there in the Pittsburgh area. You do amazing work. Taking a look at the ACC, just what have you made out of this big run that NC State has made, as this is one of the most improbable things I think anyone's ever seen?
Yeah, and look, every year, we see this all the time, and an 11 seed makes a run. Usually it's the one that comes out of playing games, but NC State was the auto bid, had to use that just to get in. So in a way that they had their own Cinderella run. I think that they have the talent because I think a lot of us had them 4th and 5th in the ACC to begin with, and they had a 5-1 start in league play. They just had a really down part that just took them out of it, but we're seeing the talent. They have plenty of talent. DJ Horn, a great scorer that came from Arizona State. DJ Burns, who can go for 20 and just really impact the game. So this isn't a shock when you look at the talent they had to begin with, but we all left them for dead, and they just became that one team that was able to just put it all together at the right time and get to this point.
Yeah, it has been absolutely incredible what we have been seeing out of this NC State team. And just, is there anything that has really flipped for this NC State team that has allowed them to make this run? Because I take a look back at it, and they do have a few pieces that you look for a team that makes a run. All year long, it didn't matter whether they were struggling or playing well. They've always done a solid job of not turning the ball over, and it does feel like they do a lot of the little things well. It's just a case where I feel like the defense, more than anything else, has really been stepping up in this most recent run.
The last time where they were in danger, the 4-game losing streak where they gave up 80-plus points a game, and then everyone keeps talking about the Louisville game where they were in a shootout with the worst team in the ACC, and the defense was awful. But after they survived that, the defense played incredibly well, including the 2 wins over Duke to get to this point. Obviously, DJ Burns can be a good interior defender, and teams haven't been able to exploit him on screens or stretching him out on the floor. And that's how the guards have just played well. Horn, Taylor, McConnell, they've had moments where they really were not good perimeter defenders, and they've shored that up. And once that happened, it's been a huge success for them. Now, people talk about, 3-point shooting of the opponents that some of the ACC teams has benefited from. Hey, but the reality is NC State's been able to consistently make theirs. The opponents haven't, and Wolfpack can take advantage.
Absolutely. It has been now just an insane run that we've been seeing, and hopefully they can update that 30 for 30 when it's all said and done, because this has been Survive and Advance Part 2. As Tristan Freeman, who does amazing work over at Bustin' Brackets, is joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And I do want to get into that game that they're going to be playing against Purdue on Saturday, because this is going to be the toughest matchup that NC State has faced yet, and I'm sure that you've picked up on this much like myself. Even though we love DJ Burns, even though we love this NC State team, if you do take a look overall for the season, this has not been some sort of amazing team on the glass, and now they have to face off against Giant of the Year Zach Edey. Just how do you take a look at the low post battle in this one? Because I do think that because of all the love and all of the just narratives in general that are surrounding this NC State team, I do think that they're perhaps giving DJ Burns a little bit more of an opportunity than he might have against Zach Edey, because I do think that this is a battle that NC State is not going to be able to hold up in.
And we saw when centers have success, they're able to use screens and able to just get the bigs away from Edey where they can exploit them. Like a lot of Grant Ike's offenses came on pick and rolls where Edey wasn't able to recover fast enough, but Ike rarely had post-up success against him. That's all Burns is going to be able to do. NC State's not going to be able to take him away from Edey. He does have a decent mid-range shot, but if you're Purdue, you'll let Burns try to take those all the time. I think the key, though, is just letting Burns get post-up opportunities and seeing if Edey can foul. Edey does not foul a lot, but Burns is the kind of big man who willingly gets down in the post. And if he can just try to get at least one foul on him and make him think about it, that could be big. Because ultimately, anytime Edey's not on the floor, teams have a chance against Purdue.
And I'm sure that your mentions are going to have a lot of people being like, oh, Edey should be called for like 500 fouls and everything like that. And that has become a hot button of topic with regards to college basketball, because, I mean, if you watch a game against Tennessee, I feel like I saw more than one foul against Zach Edey. I don't think that that's a completely off-base take. And at the same time, these people are saying that Edey fouls on every single play. I think have gone to the extreme as well. I'm not sure how you've identified this and how you've evaluated this, but I do think that there's a lot of people that just take away from Edey the credit that he deserves. And at the same time, I do think that it is somewhat fair to say that perhaps there is a little bit of a case to be made that there's a lot of referees that simply don't know how to call Zach Edey's games, and sometimes they don't necessarily get it 100% correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think Edey does get a superstar whistle, and that happens for guards all the time, so why not bigs? And we saw this with Shaq in the NBA. It's just hard to guard. I'm just personally not a fan of fouls being called because I like to see the guys on the court. So as long as it's both ways, where in that game where, Anthony Watson and Graham Ike both accumulated a lot of fouls in the second half, and some were questionable, whereas Edey didn't get his, it'll be interesting to see how they ref it, because if either Burns or Edey gets two early fouls and we don't see much in the matchup, that's going to get talked a lot on social media. And hopefully it doesn't, because this does have a chance to be a good game.
Yep, I'm right there with you, and I do think that that is going to be something that, regardless of what happens, if there's a lot of fouls called on Edey, there's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, the refs caved because of the social media mob, and if there isn't a lot of fouls being called, there's going to be a lot of people being like, oh, they just continue to protect them. So I do think that it's just one of those controversial takes, and I do think that we can be rational human beings and be somewhere in the middle on it, which is probably where things ultimately do lie. It's Tristan Freeman, who does amazing work over at Bustin' Brackets. He is joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And then in the other semifinal game, I just take a look at this one, and if Alabama can't dethrone UConn, I think Purdue maybe has a little bit of an opportunity if they slip by NC State, but man, I just take a look at what UConn is doing right now. It's very, very special. It's very rare that we see a double-digit line out here in lovely Las Vegas for a Final Four game, but we've got that with UConn being about an 11.5 to a 12-point favorite, and I don't necessarily think that it's off base. I'm not sure how you evaluate this game, but give all the credit in the world to the Alabama offense. But unless if they are canning a bunch of threes, I think that this could be their ultimate doomsday.
I don't think people talk enough about how good UConn's defense has been this year. And even without Klingon just absolutely dominating the inside, Stephon Castle has been an outstanding perimeter defender. Tristan Newton's been great. Alex Caravan's been great. UConn, even if they struggle to shoot, are good enough to hold teams in the 60s. And if you're looking for a team outside of Purdue that can beat UConn, it's going to be a team like Alabama who can score 90 in any given game. Will that work? We'll see. But they have a guy in Sears that can take over. Estrada, Griffin are big guards that can hold their own. And Grant Nelson can have the game he had against North Carolina, where he just took over and was a mismatch inside and outside. It'll give him a shot. I don't know if there's going to be much that prevents the UConn-Purdue title game matchup, but I think Alabama was one of the few teams on paper equipped to give them the best challenge outside the other one seeds. They're going to have their shot. Bigger upsets have occurred, so I won't completely rule them out, but they're definitely an underdog.
Yep, they certainly are. And how much do you take a look at this matchup with Alabama and just think that perhaps it just provides volatility, for lack of a better term? Because I think that if Alabama loses this game, I just don't see it being some sort of like a 5-6 point loss or anything like that. I think it's because they go cold from three and they lose this game by 15 plus. Meanwhile, if Alabama's hitting their threes, then I think that you could see things be very, very tough. I'm not sure how you see this, but I think with just Alabama's style, it just causes for more volatility than anything else.
Yeah, and look, whenever you're the underdog, you want to ideally limit possessions. You don't want to have more of them. You don't want to give UConn more chances to just be better. And that's going to be the concern, but that's just how Alabama plays, and they're just going to have to make this into a shootout. I think if Tristan Newton's not hitting shots and Spencer's ran off the three-point line, then there is a chance to sort of struggle a bit, although now that Clingan is sort of finding his own offensively, that could negate it, because I am interested in how Alabama's going to defend Clingan, because Grant Nelson is not going to be the ideal matchup. You can try Nick Pringle. I think he's had success in the tournament. But, yeah, I think, as you said, that this could be a blowout or this could be an upset potential, and that's what happens when you got an offensive juggernaut like Alabama.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. This is going to be just a fun Final Four in general. There's no shortage of storylines, but we do have that very clear favorite in UConn, so we shall see what happens there. As joining me on the show, we do have Tristan Freeman, who does amazing work over at Bustin' Brackets. He is joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops, and certainly when it comes to college basketball, starting to focus our attention a little bit more on the offseason. As we record this, we've got 4 games left to be played, the Final Four national title game, and then we got the NIT Final that got set on Tuesday as well. So it does mean that a lot of programs are looking forward, and we've been seeing a lot of coaching hires happening over the last few days, and this is something that I've been picking up on, and I'm not sure if you feel the same way or not, but we have been seeing a lot of these guys coming up from the non-Division I level, even in the case of Bucky McMillan, the high school level, and they've been able to have quite a bit of success at the D1 level, and I do want to get your thoughts on what we've been seeing over the last few days with there being a few guys coming up from the D2 level, coming up to the D1 level, and I do think that it's becoming a little bit more of a trend. It's one that I like, with the latest being Mr. Ben McCollum coming over from the D2 level and getting hired by Drake a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Final Four head coaching situation. I mean, Nate Oates was a former high school coach.
UW Whitewater.
I mean, so they've risen up the ranks, and I think a lot of these teams are trying to look outside the box and find which candidates they can find, because I think, retreads are somewhat falling out of style. And you just got to find different ways to find coaches to succeed. We've seen plenty of success, as you mentioned, with Sanford, suddenly becoming a contender in SoCon. You just got to find coaches either from the JUCO, D2, high school. Just find them. If they have success, then they're likely to have success elsewhere.
Absolutely, and it's been something that I think has been honestly very good for college basketball. These guys have been very fast risers, like Danny Sprinkle going in 2 years from Montana State all the way up to the power conference level. He is going to be coaching up Washington, so I think that that's very solid. And I do take a look at this one as well with Oklahoma State. They ousted Mike Boynton at the end of the year, as I liked Mike Boynton as a coach, but clearly just was not getting the job done. They hire on someone like Steve Lutz, and I thought that was a good move as well. I'm not sure how you grade a lot of these coaching moves right now, but I've yet to see a move where I was just sitting there thinking, man, I have no idea what they're doing. And I think that the Will Lutz hire is going a little bit on the radar, but I think that's exactly what Oklahoma State needed, and it's going to be very beneficial for them moving forward.
I am far from a coaching expert, and I think because of the roster volatility with some coaches bringing in a lot of their guys that can help them win early, I think we saw with Dennis Gates, who looked like an awesome coaching hire with the guys he was able to bring in and keeping Kobe Brown. And then this past season, they go winless in the SEC. We'll see. I think ultimately it's just hard to grade coaches until you see them after a couple of years. And look, every year there's going to be some that are born success, some that are solid, and a few that are just flat out duds that ultimately get back on the hot seat. So it remains to be seen, but ultimately all coaching hires are good until proven otherwise on the court.
Yep, it is certainly the case, because I take a look at all these hires and I'm like, hey, I like this hire. Like, I thought Jared Calhoun getting hired on by Utah State, very good move. We shall see what happens there. Tim Kraft heading on over to Western Carolina. I like what I'm seeing there, but is there maybe one or two coaching hires that might be a little bit more under the radar? I laid out there Steve Lutz with Oklahoma State that maybe isn't getting talked about too much, but he took a look at it and he said initially, obviously, this is going to be much subject to change based on what these guys get in the transfer portal, how they operate year number one, what have you. But was there a coaching hire or two that you said, man, this isn't getting talked about too much, but I like the move?
You mentioned Calhoun, who has success in one of the worst jobs in the country, Youngstown State, him going over there. I think we'll see if Utah State can keep its streak of good coaching hires there. But I think Stanford, escaping my name, Kyle Smith from Washington State, considering that he's had really good success in Washington State, taking them to the tournament is a big thing. And now Stanford's going to the ACC, which I would argue is a better conference than the Pac-12. It's going to be a needed move, especially considering that he's more of a developer than someone who can just naturally recruit 5 stars and see if that works. Him, especially considering that Stanford, is a school that's not going to get a ton of elite talent because obviously academic restrictions. It could be the ideal place for him. And obviously, if people saw the press conference of what the university means for him and his children, movement when it comes to staff and roster, I think it's a good fit. We'll just see how it works in the ACC when they have to travel across the country all the time for all the road games.
Yep, certainly that just movement in general, all the games that are going to be played in multiple time zones apart, I think that might be a little bit of an issue, but I did like that move. And I mean, with how crazy the offseason was, I didn't realize until like a few hours ago that Chris Mack had actually taken the job over at Charleston. That's one that I actually really like as well. And what I like as well is getting you on the board, getting you on the podcast, Tristan. You do amazing work taking a look at this great game of college basketball. I know you're going to be very, very much taking a look at everything that we're getting this offseason in the transfer portal, coaching moves, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can follow me at HoopsNut351 and also follow at Bustin' Brackets for all the latest college basketball news and whole bunch of transfers coming in and out, and I'll be ranking the first batch of those very soon.
Absolutely, and it is wild. It is crazy. We just saw Zeke Mayo decide that he is going to be going to Kansas, and as one of the first big dominoes of about $100 billion that we're going to be seeing this offseason, and somehow, some way, Tristan is going to do a great job of being able to decipher them all. So big thanks to Tristan for joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the Beast and Family podcast. And coming up next, we've got one game on the board, the NIT Final. I'll give you guys picks and analysis for that next as we get some data. And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Eaps Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family podcast. Well, it's great to be able to get Tristan Freeman aboard. He does amazing work taking a look at this game of basketball over there at Bustin' Brackets. Every single time he joins this show, he lends such good insights, and it's a pleasure to be able to get him aboard today. So big thanks to Tristan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for our lone game on the betting board for this college basketball Thursday as we hit some bank shots.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNet_D1. Well, it's very easy to go in rotation order when there's one game on the board. It's the NIT game, and our DK Network write a pick. I'm sure that you can imagine what game it's going to be. 681, 682 on the card. Seton Hall is going to be playing against Indiana State, and the Sycamores, they are between a 2.5 to a 3-point favorite. Total on this game, it is 159. I'm seeing a couple 159.5s pop up as well, and I did set my total at 157. I'm going to be looking at the under. Really no change from my initial handicap on this game yesterday, but right up here is officially going to be on Seton Hall. And the biggest reason why I'm going to be willing to back Seton Hall is that I think that they're going to be able to do a solid job on the glass and just quite frankly, are going to be able to get clean looks. With Indiana State, this offense has been absolutely remarkable. They're a top 6 team in all of college basketball in terms of points scored on a per possession basis. In games played away from home, they're shooting just below 39% from three-point range. That's a top 6 mark in all of college basketball. And Seton Hall, by comparison, they shoot okay from three-point range. I'm not going to say that Seton Hall is like some terrible shooting team or anything like that, but they are outside the top 65 in terms of points scored on a per possession basis. Your main scorer, Kadari Richmond, is not a guy that goes out there and lights the world on fire from three-point range, but the Seton Hall overall unit has been able to form some good offense thanks to being able to generate second chances. Seton Hall overall is 29th in the country in terms of rebound rate. Indiana State hovering more in that neighborhood of 50th, but the big thing for Seton Hall is that they are 18th in the country in terms of the percentage of their missed shots that they grab as an offensive rebound. That is 34.2%. Meanwhile, Indiana State, in games played away from home, and this is even though they're playing in their home state, still technically a road/neutral court game. This is officially a neutral court game. They are grabbing 19.9% of their missed shots as an offensive rebound. That ranks 334th in all of college basketball in terms of offensive rebound rate in games played away from home. Indiana State is going to have the crowd advantage in this game, playing about 80 miles away from their home campus, but New Jersey to Indiana, it's not like it's super duper short travel, but not as Herculean as what Utah was facing when they were going up against Indiana State a few nights ago. So I do think that's going to be a little bit more of a partisan crowd. Certainly it's still going to be backing Indiana State in this spot, but both of these teams also very good at the free throw line. Indiana State, they're a top 3 team in all of college basketball with their free throw shooting percentage at 80%, but the Pirates shoot 77.9% at the charity stripe as well. And for Seton Hall, it has been a unit that has been right around about 85th, 90th in the country in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, while Indiana State, they are 104th, and both of these teams, they give up more than 10 points more per 100 possessions in games played away from home rather than at home, but those clean looks, I think, is just so big. Indiana State, in games played away from home, they allow opponents to shoot 36.2% from three-point range, 273rd in all of college basketball in road three-point shooting percentage defense, and this is a big kicker as well. Seton Hall, very good at blocking shots. 8.1% of the shots that they face on defense, they block. That is a top 30 mark in all of college basketball. Meanwhile, Indiana State, that is 2.4% out of 362 D1 teams. That is 356. So that means that Seton Hall, with Jaden Bediako down low, giving you about 8 to 9 points, 7 rebounds per game. He's going to get a lot of clean looks. Now, Robbie Avila, he's going to get his. For Indiana State, 16 points, 7 boards. He's able to pop threes at about 6'10", 6'11". He has been absolutely insane. But that said, Kadari Richmond, he's just a guy that I feel like Indiana State is going to have a tough time with. He's able to post up down low. He's able to facilitate. Gives his team 15.5 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds per game. Dre Davis, Almir Dawes, both of these guys have played very well here in the NIT as well. Both of these guys give you about 14.5 to 15 points per contest. With Dawes, he shoots 38.5% from three-point range himself. And on the side of Indiana State, this is not a team that necessarily generates a lot of turnovers, which is where Seton Hall typically gets into a little bit of a sticky spot. Seton Hall, it's a bunch that they turn the ball over about 13 times per contest. Indiana State closer to about 12 times per game. And no doubt about it, Indiana State, better three-point shooting team. Ryan Conwell shoots nearly 42% from three with about 17 points per contest. Jason Ken shoots about 36.5% from the outside while providing 8 boards, 13.5 points per game. You've got a lot of facilitation with Julian Larry, Xavier Bledson, being able to combine for just under 7.5 to 8 assists per contest. So I do like these guys, but I do think that Seton Hall, their overall defense, the way that they're able to hit the glass, that's going to allow them to be able to pull this one out. Personally, I do like Seton Hall on the money line in terms of write-up. Typically, we keep it to the spread, so the write-up is going to be spread. I'm going to personally take a little bit of shot on right around plus 130, plus 135 on the money line myself, and did set my total at 157. I do think that Seton Hall, more of a mid-tempo team, is going to be able to slow this game down, and Seton Hall has been able to do a relatively rock-solid job with their defense. I do think that they're going to get a few shot blocks and cause this game to slow down just a little bit. So right up here is going to be on the Seton Hall spread. Like I said, I personally like the money line and going to be looking at the under as well. Now we'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Tristan Freeman of Boston Brackets for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GNet_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way, that is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, coming at you guys every single day throughout the year in general. All 366 days, regular season and off season. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.